not the only one that asked me whether like I'm awakened or enlightened. And again, I understand why the question comes up, but the truth is, I actually don't know what enlightenment is, right? At least not in the way that is usually talked about. And I'm honestly a little skeptical of people that do claim it, but what I do know is that I'm more conscious and more aware than I used to be. And there's an important difference here, right? Consciousness isn't something you earn. It's not a state you achieve. It's not a spiritual. It's the fact that you're aware right now. You don't become conscious. You already are. It's a recognition right here, right now. And awareness to me, again, these are my definitions, is what happens when consciousness begins to recognize what it's aware of. I'll say it one more time. Awareness is what happens when consciousness begins to recognize what it's aware of. When you notice a thought arising instead of being pulled into it. I'm noticing. I love that terminology. I'm noticing. Okay. When you feel an emotional reaction, feel it without immediately acting it out, right? Reacting to it. And when you catch a pattern before it fully runs, right? So most of the people I work with, they're not lacking consciousness, they're lacking stable awareness. And that's the objective. Can you be aware? And I think at some point in my life, and I've shared this just a little while ago, at that point in my life where I had this experience that gave me this reference point for a brief window, right? The usual sense of identity dropped away. And what remained was simple awareness without story, without labels, without self definition. And that experience didn't make me special, which again, why these conversations make me uncomfortable to some degree. And it didn't make me finished, but it did change something important. It showed me that much of what I took myself to be, my beliefs, my reactions, my identity, were not actually who I am. They were experiences that happened to me, but yet they don't define me. So what mattered wasn't the experience itself. What mattered was what happened after. And that's why, again, in the psychedelic space or some of these teaching spaces, you don't need more intellectual understanding. I could tell you you are one with the universe till I'm blue in the face. You have to have this experience. And then you have to integrate that experience because how is that actually helping you live? Is it making you, in my case, a better husband and father? Or is it just more intellectual information? And again, so the real work became integration, learning how to live from that clarity inside ordinary life, which is also important. There's no escape from ordinary life for most people. So that's like understanding this inside of work, relationships, pressure, conflict, and responsibility. And that's where awareness either stabilizes or fades back into memory. And that's the practices, that's the work. And so when people talk about enlightenment, they often describe a peak experience. But enlightenment, if the word is useful at all, isn't an experience. It's the absence of confusion about identity as a baseline, right? The absence of confusion about identity as a baseline. And most of us aren't there and don't need to pretend to be. What is meaningful is to becoming more aware than you were yesterday, catching yourself sooner, reacting less, responding more, pausing more. And again, responding instead of being dragged by a habit, by the program. And that's what I mean when I say I'm more conscious now.